Hello and welcome to our webinar, Successfully Implement Data Governance. My name is Manuel Näther and I'm working at Billigence and am responsible for the DACH region. Today I have my colleague, Michal Lichter, who is Head of Data Governance and Project Management. I will start with the overall introduction and to show how we're working, and afterwards my colleague will hand over to the data governance part, sharing some tips, tricks, and best practices, and also some experience. If you have any questions, feel free to raise them in the Q&A section. Billigence is an independent consultancy company, and we don't have any fixed focus on industry, clients, or any topics. Basically, we're helping our customers to become a data-driven company. This is what we usually see when starting talking to clients. It's a very busy slide, and this is due to the way of how it has grown over the time. You can see different data sources such as data warehouses, data marts, data lakes, even multi-cloud due to acquisitions and basically why it's grown over the time. In addition to that, you have really complex ETL, lots of coding. Every department has own experience and own tools, and the analytics out of that is barely useful. You're using different data sets for the same reportings, but it's showing the different results. And even worse, there's a lot of Excel reporting still in place. So it's pretty messy. The visualization, this is based on the on ETL and the data sources, and even the visualization is still containing on standard graph. It's not really interactive and not really useful. Maybe some departments already have some power users that know various visualization tools from their jobs before, so they might be using that already, but there is no clear structure, something like that. This overall situation that leads to confusion and frustration. There is no clear path, and if you want to rely on your reports, this is like you would read a glass ball. This is because data governance is also not in place and never thought about that. If you really want to digitize your company, you need to put in a strategy. You need to define goals for you, and you need to ask yourself, what do you want to achieve? You need to find how to use data, where the data comes from, who's responsible for that, and in order to see new trends and analyze all that. The today market is providing you with hundreds of buzzwords around those topics, and you might already know some of them, like data mining, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, predictive analysis, all that stuff. Though there is plenty of information on the market, but you cannot really use them because you don't have the strategy and you have no idea how to do it. And this is where we come into play. Billigence is on the market since 11 years, and we're helping companies to set up a goal and to work toward that. And we are headquartered out of Australia with headquarter in Sydney. We have offices in Perth and Singapore to cover the Asia Pac region. And in Europe, we have offices in London, Frankfurt, and in Prague. Furthermore, we have an office in the US in San Diego. Basically, we are blending consultancy, technology, and tools, and have a lot of experience and helping our customers getting the right data and getting the data right. We are looking end-to-end, covering nearly all aspects, from where does the data come from, where and how is it stored, how do you work with it, how can you transform it, how can you blend it. On top of that, how can you visualize that, and of course, can you trust your own data? This is the reason why we split more or less in 4 pillars. The first one, we are not a storage provider, but we're helping transition from on-premise to the cloud to set up a strategy. Same applies for ETL. We have different tools and experience in order to get everything together. The visualization is based on that again, because you need to have proper data in order to visualize that. And underlying of all that is data governance. Data governance is affecting all of those parts. And this is very essential because you cannot trust a visualization with data that's coming from your storage if you don't know what is the data saying, where does it come from, who's responsible for that. And this is the reason why we over the years teamed up with a lot of technology providers. And the next slide will show you our best of breed selection, where we have a lot of experience over the last years, and where we have also certified and experienced consultants. As I said, we are independent. We are not committed to any partners or technology vendors, but this is an overview of those we trust and work closely with. Here is the customer reference deck, as every company has it. Just to give you an idea, we usually work with the business and across all industries, starting from the telcos, pharma, finance, media, but also universities, power supply and gas, the energy sector, as well as the retail store. This is where we all have experience and interesting projects. And the data governance part will be now covered by my colleague Michal.
Thanks, Manuel, and hi everyone. Once again, my name is Michal Lichter, and I look after data governance and project management in Billigence. And today I want to tell you about our learnings from the area of data governance and best practices to implement it successfully. So let's jump straight into it. I'm sure I don't need to explain what data governance is. I believe that those of you who work with data are either fully aware or you are bombarded with information about data governance from all sides. It's definitely a topic these days. It's no longer just cloud, AI, big data, as Manuel said, but it's also about how to manage all the data you're generating. Lately, Gartner listed governance-related areas like democratization or transparency and traceability of data into top 10 technology trends for 2020. So interestingly, it's not among the data analytics trends, but technology trends overall. In terms of why data governance, I listed a few statistics to give you an idea how much wasted time, effort, and money there is in dealing with data, like looking for the right data, fixing the data quality, not being able to access the right data, interpreting the data in the wrong way, etc. And these are the reasons why we see there is more and more appetite for data management. Many companies are making significant investments into data governance because they acknowledge it's important, but very often they start absolutely unprepared. They underestimate the complexity of data or the environment they operate in, and they are often also unrealistic about what it can deliver. So the success rate of such initiatives is unfortunately fairly low. So here is the key question: how to implement it successfully? In Billigence, we have years of experience implementing data governance solutions, whether it's top-down or bottom-up, whether it's focusing on cataloging of various data assets in the organization, or governance processes, or even data privacy and regulatory compliance. And for today, I've listed 10 best practices we have learned over the years. I must admit, sometimes we've learned the hard way from mistakes, but that's why I want to share these principles with you today, so that you can avoid these mistakes. So let's start. Number one, I have set up a data governance body to manage the administration. Before you proceed with an implementation of a data governance tool, the organization should make sure there is a right governance framework put in place, or at least a high-level idea of it. And there is a designated authority who will oversee and take responsibility for this initiative. Because this step ensures there is a clear control on the priorities, roles and responsibilities are defined, and users have a go-to person from the very beginning. At the same time, imagine there may be conflicting priorities in between various business functions, and data management or data governance authority should be the steering wheel and try to balance the needs of individual stakeholders. I believe it is also data governance function responsibility to manage the communication and even to build a community around data people or some sort of a center of excellence whose member will collaborate, support each other, share the best practices. This is the best approach, how it can naturally roll across the company. And recently we have been tasked by a bank to help restart their governance initiative after 2 failed attempts. And from what we could see, one of the main reasons why it failed twice was because there was no appointed person or authority who would push it forward in the longer term. Even though the original ideas were great, but they were beaten by another priorities. And now when there is a separate governance team designated, it's totally different story. Okay, the second point is about defining a long-term data strategy and governance roadmap. So at the beginning, start from an assessment of an asset state. At the beginning of your data governance journey, define what the pain points of the company are, like what do we want to achieve? Do we want to sort out accesses to data or data quality, or do we want to let people search for data? Don't work with your assumptions only, but ask different people. Run a series of workshops and ask people from different parts of business, because pain points of people in finance will very likely be completely different from the data challenges of people in HR or marketing, wherever. And once you list these pain points, translate them into specific actions or projects. You can visually draft them onto a matrix to evaluate effort against urgency and decide what the quick wins are and what the prioritization needs to be. Such roadmap will help you stay on track, not forget where you're heading in the long term, and keep the big picture, which you may also need to show to the management to get the budget, etc. It will also remind you that you constantly need to improve and stay up to date with the user's needs. The third point is about not treating data governance as a project, but rather a continuous activity. It may sound funny or ironic as I introduce myself as someone looking after data governance and project management, but from our experience, we see that many companies tend to treat data governance initiatives as traditional projects, meaning it's a temporary endeavor to achieve certain goals or changes, but then what? If people are assigned to do other things or projects after, then governance solutions remain unused, unmanaged, people are no longer involved. And your original goals of having governance framework with improved trust, transparency, traceability of data is gone. It's not fulfilled anymore. So this point comes back to the first one of setting a data governance body or authority whose responsibility is to integrate such activity into business as usual and make sure this is an ongoing managed effort, not a one-off thing. One more thing to add here is that, as you know, data is very dynamic. It's a constantly changing field. So you need to be able to swiftly react to current needs. And also, from our experience, priorities can change over time. And therefore, having a settled data governance team who will manage the overall framework definitely helps. Step number 4, start small. Big bang approach does not work for data governance implementations, especially for large organizations with hundreds and thousands of users and source systems. While holistic approach is good, but large scope typically translates into relatively slow progress. So instead, prioritize and start small. Pick 1 or 2 areas or domains, Those can be either departments or business functions or some selected category of data or subset of data, for instance, focusing on customer data only. As an example, recently we have implemented a data governance solution for an international retail company, and initially we focused only on the procurement area. So cataloging all the procurement data from their various source systems. We built a procurement glossary, reporting catalog, we onboarded to people, and only then rolled farther into other areas. So the takeaway for you is to start with a limited scope, build a minimum viable product, and incrementally improve it. It will be much easier to sell and to onboard several users than the whole enterprise. Believe me, you'll be getting plenty of feedback from the users. There will be issues, and dealing with a few is way easier than trying to satisfy thousands of people at the same time. Moreover, this approach lets you show the value quickly, get credit, and convince more and more people. But as I mentioned previously, at the beginning, it is the best practice to map the needs of various stakeholders across the enterprise, but the actual implementation can run incrementally in phases. Step number 5 is about setting the right expectations and getting the top management support. Like any other project or initiative, setting the right expectations is key. You need to be clear to everyone that all data-related problems won't be fixed immediately, but it is rather a long-term journey which you are starting. You need to prioritize well, keep the stakeholders informed on what you're doing. Otherwise, they may get the impression that things are taking ages, it's not visible. So be clear that building a company-wide governance requires a company-wide involvement. And for any company-wide initiative, you need a support from the top management. C-level executives need to be on board and aligned with your goals you have set, because believe me, there will be hiccups when you will need their support, like when you experience lack of collaboration from the business due to conflicting priorities, etc. And this fact leads me to the next point, which is involving business. This is obviously only relevant provided you're not a business representative driving this initiative, but there are two main reasons why you should involve business from the very beginning. First, you're building a governance framework and tool for them, not for yourself, right? And secondly, they are the subject matter experts. They are the people knowledgeable of the data they are using for analysis, reporting, etc. So they are the ones to provide the inputs and build useful content. So it needs to be understood that business needs to be involved, because data governance team can't build it solely on its own. So going back to the previous point, make it clear and secure the blessing from the management. One side comment I want to make here is that the level of involvement of business is very dependent on your ambitions. It is absolutely key if you're building an enterprise-wide solution, while it may not be required at all for some small niche solutions. To give you an example, last year we were involved in building an API catalog for an investment bank in the UK. And this solution was only meant to be used by a specific group of users who were rather technical and work with these APIs. So there was no need to involve business. So this point is really dependent on the scale of your reach. The next point is about applying the governance at each level of organization. Similarly to above, governance is a topic that spans across all levels of the company, C-levels, middle management, as well as data citizens and workers like analysts, data scientists, modelers, developers, you name it. So this point is about setting up the roles and responsibilities of all of those people, because different groups of people need to have different duties and roles in the overall framework. There may be data stewards looking after accuracy of the catalog, like maintaining the descriptions, relations, etc. There may be a group of data owners ensuring the quality of data and managing the accesses to the source data, or perhaps a data council making decisions about current data challenges and an overall governance process. Ideally, you also want to establish a regular session at the executive level covering the strategic data-related decisions. The point number 8 is about using the right tool. It's a very important point. As you may know, data governance consists of 3 interlinked components: people, processes, and technology. If you only focus on 1 or 2, you will never draw a complete picture. If you attempt to do it without the right tool, it will be a wasted effort and money. And that is why we partner with tools like Collibra, Alteryx Connect, MMP, and others. Keep in mind that different tools focus on solving different pain points, whether it's searching for data or approval processes, doing an impact analysis, or even regulatory compliance. So there are different focus areas, and some tools even focus on different types of users, like technical or business. So think twice about what you want to achieve before you pick the right one. Again, to give you an example, one of our clients implemented a tool for a year and a half, and only then it got stuck on very limited ability to implement custom approval workflows. So think ahead, know the big picture. Like I said previously, draft a long-term roadmap and pick a tool that fits your need. Using a fit-for-purpose tool helps you speed up the implementation, show the quick results, and even get more buy-in from the end users as well as management. But don't forget, it works the other way around too. Remember I said there are 3 components of data governance, so using a right tool itself is not sufficient. You also need to onboard the people and set up relevant processes of stewardship and governance to be truly successful. The next point is about adoption and change management. Again, very important point. While everybody acknowledges the importance of change management, actually very few people take measures for successful adoption from what we could see. There are plenty of aspects that you should consider here, like mapping the users and stakeholders. As an example, do we know who the users are and why they want to use the tool? Take Manuel here, for example. What is the reason why he wants to use the tool? What is his so-called user journey? Will he likely use the search to find the report, or will he navigate into the glossary to understand the business context? Or is he here to review the technical model from the technical perspective? So this is the understanding you need to get and then customize the content for each role. You also need to prepare a strategy how to target users, even prepare maybe a marketing campaign to keep people informed, use various information and communication channels so that they know what's happening in the governance team. Establish a support model. Users need to know who to contact in the case of issues or questions, or what the process of giving permissions and accesses is. Make it transparent and also aim to convert the skeptics, and this will help to convert them. Last but not least, the trainings. Think about the training concept, whether it's running a series of training sessions or using a train-the-trainer concept. But also think of sharing the documentation, training guides, maybe record training videos, or even record a video testimony of someone from the management encouraging people to use the tool. Be creative and it will pay off. I must say that we have had implementations, unfortunately, which failed from this perspective, regardless of how good the technical implementation was. One of the important best practices is to measure the adoption rate and success of your governance program in general. So set up metrics and KPIs like how many people use the governance tool, or how many people regularly attend governance meetups, etc. And evaluate them regularly, track the progress, see where you're heading, Some of the modern data governance tools also log user activity, so you can build reports on top of it, monitor what users look at to understand also where you need to focus the most attention, etc. The last point is a bit soft on the soft side. It's about giving people a good reason to go there every day. It sounds simple, but think about it. People will only use a governance tool if it's really useful for their work. So talk to them, listen to them, get the feedback. The content needs to stay relevant, accurate, valuable, up to date, and always keep this in mind before you start building a monster, which will be very difficult to cope with. Okay, that's it. These were the top 10 most important considerations for your data governance initiatives. I'm sure there are more principles, but I'm convinced that these are key to a successful start. Hope this was useful. If you have any questions or comments, pop them into chat or reach out to Manuel and myself. You can see our email contacts here. We'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much.